Dracula. We continue with part 5. Later, the morning of the May the 16th, God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety, the assurance of safety are things of the past. Whilst I live on here, there is but one thing to hope for, that I may not go mad. If indeed I be not mad already, if I be sane, then surely it is maddening to think for safety, even though this be only whilst I can save his purpose. Great God, merciful God, let me be calm, for out of that way lies madness indeed. I begin to get new lights on certain things which have puzzled me. Up to now, I never quite knew what Shakespeare meant when he made Hamlet say, "My tablets, quick, my tablets! 'Tis meet I put it down," etc. For now, feeling as though my own brain were unhinged, or as if the shock had come which must end in its undoing, I turned to my diary for repose. The habit of entering accurately must help to soothe me. The Count's mysterious warning frightened me at the time. It frightens me more now when I think of it, for in future he has had a fearful hold upon me. I shall fear to doubt what he must say. When I had written in my diary and I had fortunately placed the book and pen in my pocket, I felt sleepy. The Count's warning came into my mind, but I took pleasure in disobeying it. The sense of sleep was upon me, and with it the obstinity which sleep brings as outrider. The soft moonlight soothed, and the wide expanse without gave a sense of freedom which refreshed me. I determined not to return tonight to the gloom haunted rooms, but to sleep here, where of old ladies had sat and sung and lived sweet lives, whilst their gentle breasts were sad for their menfolk away in the midst of remorseless wars. I drew a great couch out of its place near the corner, so that as I lay, I could look at the lovely view to east and south, and unthinking of and uncaring for the dust, compose myself for sleep. I suppose I must have fallen asleep. I hope so, but I fear for all that followed was startlingly real. So real that now sitting here in this broad full sunlight of the morning, I cannot in the least believe that it was all sleep. I was not alone. The room was the same, unchanged in any way since I came into it. I could see along the floor in the brilliant moonlight my own footsteps marked where I had disturbed the long accumulation of dust. In the in the moonlight opposite me were three young women, ladies by their dress and manner. I thought at the time that I must be dreaming when I saw them, for through the moonlight was behind them. They threw no shadow on the floor. They came close to me and looked at me for some time, and then whispered together. Two were dark and had high noses like the Count, and great dark piercing eyes that seemed to be almost red when contrasted with the pale yellow moon. The other was fair as can be, with a great wavy masses of golden hair and eyes like pale sapphires. I seemed somehow to know her face and to know it in connection with some dreamy fear, but I could not recollect at the moment how or where. All three had brilliant white teeth that shone like pearls against the ruby of the voluptuous lips. There was something about them that made me uneasy, some longing, at the same time some deadly fear. I felt in my heart a wicked burning desire that they would kiss me with those red lips. It is not good to note this down, lest some day it should meet Mina's eyes and cause her pain, but it is the truth. They whispered together, and then they all three laughed. Such a silvery, musical laugh, but as hard as though the sound never could have come through the softness of human lips. It was like the intolerable tingling sweetness of water glasses when played on by a cunning hand. The fair girl shook her head, and the other two urged her on. One said, Go on, you are first, and we shall follow. Yours is the right to begin, the others added. He is young and strong. There are kisses for us all. I lay quiet, looking out under my eyelashes in an agony of delightful anticipation. The fair girl advanced and bent over me till I could feel the movement of her breath upon me. Sweet it was, one sense, honey sweet, and sent the same tingling through the nerves as her voice, but with a bitter underlying the sweet, a bitter offensiveness, as one smells in blood. I was afraid to raise my eyelids, but looked out and saw perfectly under the lashes the girl went on her kisses and bent over me, simply gloating. There was a deliberate voluptuousness about which was both thrilling and repulsive, and as she arched her neck, she actually licked her lips like an animal, till I could see in the moonlight the moisture shining on the scarlet lips and on the red tongue as it lapped the white, sharp teeth. Lower and lower went her head as the lips went below the range of my mouth, and her chin and seemed about to fasten on my throat. Then she paused, and I could hear the churning sound of her tongue as it licked her teeth and lips, and I could feel the hot breath on my neck. Then the skin on my throat began to tingle as one flesh does when the hand that is to tickle it approaches nearer, nearer. I could feel the soft, shivering touch of the lips on the supersensitive skin of my throat, and the hard dents of two sharp teeth just touching and pausing there. I closed my eyes in languorous ecstasy and waited with beating heart. But at that instant, another sensation swept through me as quick as lightning. I was conscious of the presence of the Count and of his being as if lapped in a storm of fury. As my eyes opened involuntarily, I saw his strong hand grasp the slender neck of the fair woman and with giant power draw it back, the blue eyes transformed with fury, the white teeth champing with rage, and the fair cheeks blazing red with passion. But the Count, never did I imagine some wrath and fury, even to the demons of the pit. His eyes were positively blazing. The red light in them was lurid, as if flames of hellfire blazed behind them. His face was deathly pale, and the lines of it were hard like drawn wires. The thick eyebrows that met over the nose now seemed like a heaving bar of white hot metal. With a fierce sweep of his arm, he hurled the woman from him and then motioned to the others as though he were beating them back. It was the same imperious gesture that I had seen used to the wolves. In a voice which, though low and almost in a whisper, seemed to cut through the air and then ring around the room, he said, "How dare you touch him, any of you? How dare you cast eyes on him when I had forbidden it? Back, I tell you. This man belongs to me. Beware how you meddle with him, or you'll have to deal with me." The fair girl, with a laugh, turned to answer him. "You yourself never loved. You never love." On this, the other woman joined, and such a mirthless, hard, soulless laughter rang through the room as it almost made me faint to hear it. It seemed like pleasure of fiends. Then the Count turned, after looking at my face attentively, and said in a soft whisper, "Yes, I too can love. You yourselves can tell it from the past. Is it not so? Well, now I promise you, when I am done with him, you shall kiss him at your will. Now go, go. I must awaken him, for there is work to be done." "Are we to have nothing tonight?" said one of them with a low laugh, as she pointed to the bag which he had thrown upon the floor, and which moved as though there was some living thing within it. For answer he nodded his head. One of the women jumped forward and opened it. If my ears did not deceive me. There was a gasp and a low wail as the half smothered child, the woman, closed around, whilst I was aghast with horror. But as I looked, they disappeared, and with them the dreadful bag. There was no door near them, and they could not have passed me without me noticing. They simply seemed to fade into rays of moonlight and pass out through the windows, for I could see outside the dim shadowy forms, and for a moment before they entirely faded away. Then the horror overcame me as I sank down unconsciously. John Harker's journal continued. I awoke in my own bed. If had it had be that I had not dreamt, the Count must have carried me here. I tried to satisfy myself on the subject, but could not arrive at any unquestionable result. To be sure, there were certain small evidence, such that my clothes were folded and laid in a manner which was not my habit. My watch was still unwound, and I was righteously accustomed to wind it the last thing before going to bed, and many such details. But these things are no proof, for they may have been evidences that my mind was not as usual, and for some cause or another had certainly been much upset. I must watch for proof. Of one thing I am glad, if it was that the Count carried me here and addressed me. He must have been hurried in his task, for my pockets are intact. I am sure this diary would not have been a mystery to him, which he would not have broke. He would have taken or destroyed it. As I look around this room, although it has been to me so full of fear, it is now sort of a sanctuary, for nothing can be more dreadful than those awful women who are waiting to suck my blood. I have been down to look at the room again in daylight, for I must know the truth. When I got to the doorway at the top of the stairs, I found it closed. It had been so forcibly driven against the jamb that part of the woodwork was splintered. I could see that the bolt of the lock had not been shot, but the door is fastened from the inside. I fear it was no dream, and must act on this surmise. May 19th. I am surely in toils. Last night the Count asked me in the savviest tones to write 3 letters, and one saying that my work here was nearly done and that I should start for home within a few days, and another that I was starting on the next morning from the time of the letter, and the third that I had left the castle and arrived at Bistrick. I would fain have rebelled, but felt that in the present state of things it would be madness to quarrel openly with the Count whilst I was so absolutely in his power, and to refuse would be to excite his suspicion and to arouse his anger. He knows that I know too much, and that I must not live, lest I be dangerous to him. My only chance is to prolong my opportunities. Something may occur which will give me a chance to escape. I saw in his eyes something of the gathering wrath which was manifest when he hurled the fair woman from him. He explained to me that the posts were few and uncertain, and that my writings now would ensure ease of mind to my friends, and he assured me with so much impressiveness that he would countermand the later letters, which would be held over at Bistrick until due time, in case chance would admit of my prolonging my stay, that to oppose him would have been to create new suspicion. I therefore pretended to fall in with his views, and asked what dates I should put on the letters. He calculated a minute, then he said, the first should be June 12th, the second June 19th, and the third June 29th. I know now the span of my life. God help me. May 28th. There is a chance of escape, or at any rate of being able to send word home. A band of Sagani have come to the castle and are encamped in the courtyard. These Sagani are gypsies. I have notes of them in my book. They are peculiar to this part of the world, though allied to the ordinary gypsies all the world over. There are thousands of them in Hungary and Transylvania who are almost outside all law. They attach themselves as a rule to some great noble and call themselves by his name. They are fearless and without religion, save superstition and they talk only their own varieties of the Romany tongue. I shall write some letters home, and I shall try to get them to have them posted. I have already spoken them through my window to begin acquaintanceship. They took their hats off as they made many signs, which, however, I could not understand any more than I could speak their language. I have written the letters. Minna's is in shorthand, and I simply ask Mr. Hawkins to communicate with her. To her, I have explained my situation, but without the horrors which many, may only surmise. It would shock and frighten her to death were I to expose my heart to her. Should the letters not carry, then the Count shall not yet know my secret or the extent of my knowledge. I have given the letters. I threw them through the bars of my window with a gold piece and made what signs I could to have them posted. The man who took them pressed them to his heart and bowed, and then put them in his cap. I could do no more. I stole back to the study and began to read. As the Count did not come in, I have written here. The Count has come. He has sat down beside me, and he said in his smoothest voice, as he opened two letters, "The sign ye have given me to these, of which, though I know not whence they come, I shall, of course, take care. See," he must have looked at it, "one is from you to your friend Peter Hawkins. The other," here he caught sight of the strange symbols as he opened the envelope, and the dark look came into his face, and his eyes blazed wickedly. "The other is a vile thing, an outrage upon friendship and hospitality. It is not signed. Well, so it cannot matter to us." And he calmly held the letter and the envelope in the flame of the lamp till they were consumed. Then he went on. "The letter to Hawkins that I shall, of course, send on, since it is yours. Your letters are sacred to me. Your pardon, my friend, that unknowingly I did break the seal. Will you not cover it again?" He held out the letter to me, and with a courteous bow handed me a clean envelope. I could only redirect it and hand it to him in silence. When he went out of the room, I could hear the key turn softly. A minute later, I went over and tried it, and the door was locked. Within an hour or two after, the Count came quietly into the room. His coming awakened me, for I had gone to sleep on the sofa. He was very courteous and very cheery in his manner, and seeing that I had been sleeping, he said, "So, my friend, you are tired. Get to bed. There is the surest rest. I may not have the pleasure to talk to-night, since there are many labors to me, but you will sleep, I pray." I passed to my room and went to bed, and strange to say, slept without dreaming. Despair has its own calms. May 31st. This morning, when I woke, I thought I would provide myself with some paper and envelopes from my bag and keep them in my pocket, and that I might write in case I should get an opportunity. Again, a surprise. Again, a shock. Every scrap of paper was gone, and with it all my notes, my memoranda relating to the railways and travel, my letter of credit, in fact, all that might be useful to me were I outside the castle. I sat and pondered a while, and then some thought occurred to me, and I made search of my wardrobe where I had placed my clothes. The suit in which I had traveled in was gone, and also my overcoat and rug. I could find no trace of them anywhere. This looked like some new scheme of villainy. June 17th, this morning, as I was sitting on the edge of my bed, cudgeling my brains, I heard, without cracking of whips and pounding and scraping of horses' feet upon the rocky path beyond the courtyard. With joy I hurried to the window and saw drive into the yard two great wagons, each drawn by 8 sturdy horses, and at the head of each pair a Slovaki with wide hat, great nail-studded belt, dirty sheepskin, and high boots. They had also their long staves in hand. I ran to the door, intending to descend and try and join them through the main hall, as I thought that might well be open for them. Again, my shock, my door was fastened on the outside. Then I ran into the window and cried to them. They looked up at me stupidly and pointed, but just then one of them came out, and seeing them pointing to my window, said something, at which they laughed. Hence, no effort of mine, no piteous cry or agonized entreaty would make them even look at me. They resolutely turned away. Their wagons contained great square boxes with handles of thick rope. These were evidently empty by the ease in which they handled them, and by the resonance as they were roughly moved. When they were all unloaded and packed in a great heap in one corner of the yard, they were given some money, and spitting on it for luck, lazily went to each horse's head. Shortly after, I heard the cracking of the whips die away in the distance.